You a football fan?
What got you into the acid?
Went to the NFL and was actually a pretty big deal now. I'm not going to name him, but I almost killed him by accident.
How old are you at this point?
Exited right next to his head on the couch.
You try to fill in the blanks?
72 beers in a day.
The same one you were pissed off about?
I wanted to die. I really did. I went back to the apartment my parents had stopped paying for in Auburn, and holed up alone with a ton of alcohol and firearms. You a football fan?
No, I'm not.
I'm not either. The reason I was asked is there's a Auburn player that lived diagonally above me who went to the NFL and was actually a pretty big deal now. I'm not going to name him, but I almost killed him by accident, drunk with a pistol in my apartment. So Auburn Police Department came out and took all of my guns. That was my first interaction with the police since California. They didn't charge me with anything, but they put all my guns in a box. And
what were you doing with the gun?
So I had a party at my apartment. I had a whole bunch of people over, drunk as shit, and I had this little Glock 26 that was unloaded, sitting on the island in my kitchen. And I went to the bathroom or to get a beer or something. And I come back and I look at it, and the trigger's out. And on a Glock, when it's cocked, the trigger's out. So I thought somebody had just cocked my gun, and I went to decock it. Somebody had put a fucking mag in it and chambered it around. So yes, it was absolutely negligent discharge. I never should have pulled that trigger without checking the chamber. But I wasn't like just drunk playing with a gun. Except I was drunk playing with a gun. It's a miracle I didn't kill anybody. The bullet went through my roof, through his wall, and exited right next to his head on the couch.
Shit.
Yeah. That was it's a miracle that nobody died. I mean, I could have gone to prison right then. I remember doing a lot of LSD and shrooms over the next month or two. And basically had a psychotic break, I guess. I don't know. Ended up going back home to my parents. That girl, Rachel, that I'd met at MEPS.
What do you mean a psychotic break?
It was like a constant state of panic. Like if you've ever had a panic attack, they last a few minutes usually. This lasted for 4 days, and no amount of alcohol would make it go away. So psychotic break's probably not the right word, but something happened, and it was after I ate 10 hits of acid in 2 days.
What got you into the acid?
Oddly enough, it was the kid that had the chambered the ran of that pistol. I just wanted to change the way I felt, and I would do anything I could. I had done acid previously in California, but never to that extent. Like I ate a ton of it, and then we went picking shrooms. I mean, I lived right across from the Auburn Veterinary College fields where they have their llamas or alpacas or something. We'd go pick shrooms, and I've always been fascinated by psychedelics. We could talk more about that. But the time frame on all this is a blur, just because I was so fucked up, man. Completely out of my mind. Like my apartment looked like a hoarder lived in it. It was like there was no carpet. You could see nothing but beer cans. Eventually, I got evicted. I don't remember that, but somehow I ended up back in Georgia. And somehow Rachel, that girl from Destin that I'd met a year prior, ended up in Georgia at my parents with me. I don't remember how that happened. I don't remember how she got back home.
Do you talk to your parents about any of this stuff and try to fill in the blanks?
Some definitely. Now, this part right here, I haven't. I probably should. I honestly haven't even thought about this time period of my life until today in a really long time. I mean, I hate talking about the fact that I failed at being in the infantry. I hate talking about the fact that I failed at being a college student. I hate talking. My life is a constant series of failures up to this point. So I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it. But there was I remember I spent a whole lot of time down in Destin after I got back from Fort Benning. I remember driving that 67 Camaro down to Destin a lot. I remember drinking in Destin a lot. So I really don't know how many of those gaps my parents could fill in because we weren't talking during that time period, I don't think. I think that they knew the wheels were falling off the bus, man. And my mom learned a long time ago sometimes she's got to love me from a distance to preserve her own mental health, which I can completely understand. Um, I was having a lot of health problems from my drinking, though. I was throwing up a lot of blood. Um, I lost a whole lot of weight. Uh, you hear about college kids floating kegs and drinking a lot of beer, and like that's very common. But I was next level. When I say I was drinking 2 or 3 cases a day, I really mean that. So like 72 beers in a day. Yeah. Um, I would hazard a guess I was probably walking around at a constant zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 blood alcohol content. And as you'll hear in a little bit, my frame of reference for that's pretty good. I usually could tell what I was at. It was bad though. Uh, I wanted to die. I really did. Um, and I knew if I kept drinking, I would. And so that's what I was doing.
That was your plan.
That was the plan. I was going to drink myself to death. Um, Somehow I ended up back in Georgia at my parents' house. My brother was there. Some of his friends from high school were there. And I guess I had just shown up at their house drunk as shit. And I don't remember what happened, but I'm sure I picked a fight because I used to do that. And my brother had enough, and my dad had enough. And I don't remember what happened, but I remember waking up in jail the next day with black eyes, like I'd had the hell beat out of me, and I was the one that went to jail because I'm sure I was the instigator. So that's my first time going to jail. They charged me with, I guess, 2 counts of domestic battery because it was my dad and my brother, and then 1 count of felony terrorist threat because apparently I said some really dumb shit to the police. They dropped those. I had an order of no contact with my parents. Oh, I don't know if you've wondered this, but I'm drinking a very large amount of alcohol. You're probably wondering how I was affording that. Somehow I had gotten credit cards and had paid them just enough to where I had a $30,000 credit limit. And I literally ran up like 20 grand in alcohol. So I bonded myself out of jail with my credit card. I don't even know if you can do that today. Like, I think they only take cash. I don't know. I should know this. Anyway, bought myself out of jail, and my parents had taken my car because I got pulled over going like 120 miles an hour, with dope and guns in the car too. Never got caught for that. I just remember that. I had that girl from Florida in the car with me though. Anyway, they'd taken my car and sold it. After I get arrested for that, I'm banned from going to my parents' house. I've got an order of no contact with my parents, my brother, and my brother's friend. And I somehow convinced a car dealership to sell me a vehicle and finance it. The truck. It was a 98 GMC 4x4. And I convinced an apartment complex to lease me an apartment, a nice one. I had no income at all.
How old are you at this point?
21 years old. And of course, I had no way of paying for this apartment, so the clock was ticking. And I'm still drinking like a fish. I ended up meeting this guy named Rod, I think was his name, who did gutter cleaning in the apartments, and he offered me a job. Then he tried to pay me in meth, which was weird, but I took it anyway. And so now I'm addicted to meth, squatting in an apartment with a vehicle I'm not paying for. A year prior, I had been at Fort Benning trying to become an infantryman. And the year prior to that, I was in college kicking ass. And now I'm squatting and addicted to meth and a raging alcoholic. Oh, and I'm out on bond. Like, it just it went south so fast, or it felt like it did. It's gone south much faster as we get more into this. But um, somehow I even had internet in this apartment, and I somehow had a computer in this apartment. I don't remember how I got these things, but I had them, and I logged into, you remember AOL Instant Messenger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I log into an old AIM account, and my ex-girlfriend from when I was 12 and 13, and then again 16 and 17, from Mississippi messages me. And
The same one you were pissed off about that you had to leave to go to California?
no, same time frame, but it was a different girl.
Okay.
Me and this girl, her name's Erin. We've known each other since we were 12. I went to the same church. She actually wrote me letters when I was locked up in rehab in California, in Utah. She'd stayed in touch with my mom and had just been kind of like a constant positive influence over the years. When I moved back to Alabama, 16 and 17, we dated long distance. And anyway, she messages me on AIM, and she's like, "Is this Ben?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she didn't believe me because apparently she'd been trying to message me and kept getting one of my crazy girlfriends. And so I was like, "Well, fucking call me." So I pick up the phone, call her, and we talked for 5 minutes. And she's like, "Well, look, I'm married, but I'm about to get divorced. Why don't you come up to North Carolina?" And I'm sitting there thinking in the back of my head, this bitch has no idea what she's getting into. Because like she's a good little church girl, right? And I ended up, my credit cards are all almost maxed out at this point, but the clock's ticking. Like I'm about to be homeless and my truck's going to get repoed. And so I get the truck and I start driving to Charlotte, run out of gas. My credit card's declined. And I convinced somebody to fill my truck up with gas. I make it to Charlotte. Long story short, she's pregnant.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.